Hello, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to another series of Black Blockchain Summit. We are live today, and I'd love to welcome everyone to this wonderful discussion. It is an interesting topic, and I believe all of us are going to learn from each one of us. These are interesting times in crypto. We're seeing a lot of amazing technologies or amazing innovations happening in crypto. Today we are in the DeFi season. So, but anyway, we are not into that today. Today we are going to be looking at another one of the theories, predictions of price, I think so, which is the hyperwave theory. I am not a pro in the theory, and I would love our discussion to be so beautiful in such a way that those who've got much knowledge on it can be able to help us drive this conversation. So I welcome everyone. I want you to take this few minutes to introduce yourself before we can diverge into the topic. I'll start with you, Tongai, and Tongai, Leah will come in, Tony, Niha, that order.
All right. Thank you so much, Alakanani. Thank you for having me. It's amazing, and I'm excited to be on the Black Blockchain Summit. I'm here in Harare, Zimbabwe. My name is Tongai Choto. I am the co-founder and lead developer of afriblocks.com, which is a global Pan-African freelance network and marketplace. The platform is a platform that connects African professionals with remote jobs across the world. Particularly in this time where everyone is working remotely. I'm a software developer, mainly in the financial technology space. That's where I've been working for the past 5 years. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, thank you guys. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for having us. I remember fondly being at Howard last year. I'm sad that we're not there, but this is incredible that I get to see all your lovely faces. So to all your panelists, thank you guys. I'm excited to be on a panel with you. I co-authored the Hyperwave theory and book with my former partner, Tyler Jenks, and Socrates, Tyler Coates. Obviously, the theory was developed by my former partner, Tyler Jenks. So I am beyond honored that this panel exists, that you named it this way, that you guys are joining. Tone is a genius at Hyperwave. So this is just all sorts of cool, I should say. I'm currently the CEO of Valkyrie, just announced. So Valkyrie is an asset management firm. I'm the CEO with co-founder with Stephen McClure, who's the CIO. And we're up to a couple new things. But as per this conversation, we're very focused on ensuring that asset management and wealth management is democratized and able to get to everybody so that everybody can have the appropriate financial planning, weather the storms, also make sure that they're capitalizing on the upside, but that portfolio management and asset management shouldn't just be for the rich. It should be for everybody, and everybody should have access to that. And also have access to safe exposure to Bitcoin through the digital securities and other ways. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Hey guys, I guess I'll go next. And it was great being at Howard last year as well, alongside Leah and many others. So this is my second time speaking at the Black Blockchain Summit. I decided to relax a little bit. I couldn't take it staying home for COVID isolation anymore. So I had to go to the West Coast, got out to California. And I'm actually seeing your partner, Leah. I'll be seeing Stephen tomorrow from Valkyrie. So that'll be a good chat. And yeah, huge fan of Hyperwave. It was very interesting listening to Tyler Jenks describe his model of trading what everyone thinks is a bubble in a more mathematical way. And yeah, I've been doing everything I can the last 5 years to just educate people about trading, investing, and try to make it simple for everyone. And almost everything I do is free, just to try to educate people.
Thank you.
Hey guys, definitely glad to meet the rest of you. Last year I was invited to attend, but I couldn't. So this is going to be my first session with the Black Blockchain Summit. It's definitely interesting. My name is Neil Majuk. I'm the founder of Pesabase. I came across Bitcoin in 2013, and it took me about a month to kind of get the feel for the implication of this technology. And so I looked at it and I thought, you know, with my background, I was born in Sudan. I've lived in 3 other countries before I migrated to Australia. It made sense that a technology like this should come into existence and be something, a force for good. And when I looked at it, the question in my mind was more about, could this thing survive the test that it's going to face? Not whether the world needed it. There was no doubt that the world needed it. And so, in my opinion, it's only become stronger since, and that's an amazing thing. I've watched currencies die even in my own country, and right now one of them could be dying again. So I do know that humanity, and especially my own fellow Africans, do need a way to preserve their wealth and a way to actually, an alternative right from the gated currencies and technologies and systems in their own countries. Sometimes the leaders in any one country are not the best, and people should not really ascribe and be forced to be locked in. We should have an opt-out opportunity. And that's my belief, and that's what made me involved in this technology and why I'm building Pesabase today. It's been exciting. We'll see how we go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was in Africa in March. I was gonna spend 1 to 2 months in Africa, but I had to come back because of COVID. It was just I was gonna meet the Bitcoin community, but I only ended up spending 2 weeks in South Africa, and then I had to come back. So I had to cut my 6 to 7 week trip short, and 2 weeks and was done.
Yeah, I was in Nairobi too myself. My family was supposed to join me in Nairobi in March, but you know, not being a Kenyan citizen, things just went the other way around.
Yeah, I had my flights. I had flights to Nairobi as well, like at the end of March, and I didn't make it.
That would have been great actually to have you there. Let's hope things get better, and let's hope we all run into each other physically again one day.
Yes.
Great to have all of you here. I believe this is going to be an interesting discussion. Like I said, the floor is going to be open for discussion, free mode, because some of us are really going to learn about this theory and how relevant it is to Bitcoin. Is the theory relevant to Bitcoin today? Looking at how Bitcoin is performing, does the theory, the hyperwave theory, relevant? So, where I'm going to ask all of us maybe to jump into the topic. The first thing that you're going to do is to talk, what is the hyperwave theory? Maybe I'll start off with Leah, because from my research, I know you are quite a very good proponent of the theory. So maybe if we drive the floor, Leah, you take the first button.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I think hyperwave theory is actually most pressing now, traditional and Bitcoin, and obviously the coupling and decoupling of both, because hyperwave is based on tectonic shifts of economic disruptions. So hyperwaves happen when, very simply put, huge macroeconomic shifts are happening underway. Now, hyperwaves are a bubble, but not all bubbles are hyperwaves. So the idea behind hyperwave is that bubbles can follow a very specific 7-phased chart pattern. And with that, and knowing those patterns, you're able to invest and also divest accordingly. So I'd say that's the super high level, but I'll throw it on you, Tone, who was the first person to really bring it into the Bitcoin community and greater access. How would you explain it? How do you explain it to your followers?
So the way I explain hyperwave is it's everyone knows what a bubble is, but how do you take advantage of it financially? And you see that typical chart where things start to go up and then they dip and then they make a second high and then they dip again. But what Tyler Jenks did with Hyperwave is he put some mathematical rules that gave him clean and clear buying opportunities and exit opportunities. Now, Tyler, because he was an institutional investor, he never really had he was never shorting the market, but the hyperwave allowed him to get out of an asset just in time after a crazy run up. And that's how he was able to exit the Bitcoin trade right at the top. He got out at around $18,000 after the high was around 19,000, and he called the top perfectly thanks to Hyperwave. He just added clear mathematical trading rules to what everyone just calls a bubble without any guideline on how to trade it.
Tongai?
Yeah, you explained it quite well, Tone, because I did computer science and maths, and I'm a really technical person. And what I believe is everything is mathematical. Everything can be explained by maths. So the simplest explanation that you can have to the hyperwave is that all the processes that are going on with the Bitcoin pricing can be calculated. And like you explained, that's how you're able to go out at the right time, go in at the right time, because, you know, particularly because Bitcoin has been really volatile. So that's how, like, in a short explanation, you can, without talking too much about the technicalities, the mathematics, explain how hyperwave can be explained, explained to someone who doesn't know much about mathematics, that, you know, when Bitcoin is going up, it will reach a point where it'll start to go down again, and not go down too much, but start to go up again, because of the mathematics that happen with people who are trading with the market, with the supply and demand. So yeah, I think that was a great explanation. And I really do like, you know, all the phases, how you go from phase one right up to phase 7, and how all of that can be explained mathematically.
Okay, Niha, do you have
Well,
anything that you want
definitely.
to add?
I would say I'm not really an expert in the wave itself. I kind of am aware of it, but I approached it from a different perspective. I'm not one of those lucky people that sort of knew the top in 2017, even though I'd been in the space since 2013. But one of the things that I did was I sort of searched for people around that had prior experiences. And one of the people that I follow the most is called Peter Brand. He actually tweeted also in December 2017 saying, look, Bitcoin top is in. But at that time, I was too busy partying, so I definitely didn't get out. But let's just say that while I'm grateful, I've since learned and I picked up a lot of information along the way. The biggest benefit that I see from this sort of wave theory, as well as the bubble or whatever you call it, is that it brings in new money, new interest, new attention, and actually wakes up a lot of people that have the skills to make this industry a lot better, to say, hey, what's going on there? And so in my regard, the first time I looked in at Bitcoin in 2013 around July, it was just because of that similar, where Mt. Gox got hacked, yes. And I found the fact that some nerds had created a digital currency that was actually worth something was amusing. So I looked at it from a perspective of a nice joke. Then I read about it, and then I just kept reading about it. And then eventually I just had to become part of the community. So in my opinion, every wave, call it a bubble phase or whatever, brings in new talent, new resources, new attention, and it's only good for people that get in. I mean, I wasn't working in the crypto space in between 2013 and 2017. I was a hobbyist, but then from 2017 till now, I'm working the space. So you can say I went from traditional to now crypto, and so all it means is that it's really getting good mind share.
Okay. One of the things that I came across as I was studying the hyperwave theory, you know, markets tend to follow a certain kind of pattern. You know, like it will trace 4 steps up, I think, and then 3 steps down. Looking at Bitcoin, does it really follow the pattern according to this Hyperwave theory? Does the Bitcoin follow the pattern? Someone on the
If you
floor.
want, okay, I'll just jump in. I think it does follow the human psychology of greed, fear, euphoria, and the whole works. And so
Yeah.
the hyperwave falls along that. I find at first I didn't think so. I mean, I am one of those that I would put my hand up and say maybe 2017 I thought the market had changed. And so I would say that since then I've learned that yes, the market has changed, that it's a lot bigger, but then it's not as big as the bubble made it to be. And so then there was a correction, and now we're basing and we're now growing back to what it used to be, and probably more than that. So let's hope it keeps growing. It's definitely good.
Okay.
I was gonna say I'll
Okay,
jump
let
in on
me.
this, but go ahead, Akinani.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like some people didn't hear the question. So I was saying, as I was studying this theory, one of the things that I learned, markets tend to follow a certain pattern. Like it will follow according to the theory. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, the market will go 4 steps up and then maybe retrace 3 steps down. So I was asking if this is also like relevant to Bitcoin. Does Bitcoin follow the same pattern that the theory?
So I would say Bitcoin followed Hyperwave absolutely perfectly on the way up. And it's been following it fairly well on the way down all throughout 2018, and even fairly so in 2019. And I really wish Tyler was still with us to talk about this. But a few years ago, when Tyler and I were discussing it, I referenced the fact that there is a high probability the hyperwave that was calling for Bitcoin to go all the way down to $1,000. And I felt that that is not likely to happen. And the main reason why I was saying it back then is because I was focusing on the hyperwave of the NASDAQ bubble in 2000. And the NASDAQ bubble in 2000 did not fall all the way down to the starting level. So the way Hyperwave begins is it establishes a baseline of where the asset is trading for years in very low in consolidation. And for Bitcoin, that was basically below $1,000. And the same thing was happening for NASDAQ prior to the early 1990s. The NASDAQ was like the technology stocks were basically just flat. And then they started to rise. And when that hyperwave started to, when the top came in 2000 and the top NASDAQ stocks crashed, the bottom wasn't at the very low level. I forgot what the price point was for the NASDAQ, but it was approximately double where that low area, where that baseline was. In Bitcoin, it's actually debatable where that baseline is. Tyler was putting it around $1,000. You can make an argument that it's closer to 700. You can also make an argument that it's closer to 1,300 because that's where the top was in 2013. And just like with the NASDAQ fell all the way down and it approximately doubled where that baseline was. Now, doubling something sounds a lot, but when you're coming down from a bubble top, it's not that much. So I was anticipating $1,500 to $2,000 price of Bitcoin, but I said that when Bitcoin was over 15,000. The bottom in Bitcoin came just above 3,000. So sure, you can say I was off by 40, 50%, or maybe even 100%. But if you look at it from the top, I was only off by about 10%. And the same thing with Hyperwave, because of how revolutionary Bitcoin is, just like how revolutionary the internet was. I was telling Tyler that expecting it to come all the way back down as if this technological revolution didn't take place is unlikely. It's not like some company that has competition. This is underlying innovation and technology, and there has to be a premium on that it's not going to go all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, if I can just jump in, that's a great point because Bitcoin and blockchain are unique. They are different from other altcoins out there. So if you look at it, like there was that time when there were a lot of these cryptocurrencies coming up, these coins, and almost 90% of them are now went to zero, and they were following that hyperwave. But with Bitcoin, it's a unique technology. Just like when there was the internet bubble, for example, it was way up. Then when it crashed, there were people who survived. There were technologies and platforms that survived through that and didn't go necessarily down or to zero. So that's what I think with Bitcoin. It will not go down to zero because it is a strong technology. It has made an impact and it has survived the test of time. So it will still follow the hyperwave. It will go down and back up, but I don't think like Tony has mentioned, it will not go down to totally zero as if no revolution has happened. So yeah, that's a great point there.
Can I add to that? And oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, it's fascinating. As per your question of does Bitcoin follow, and especially the emotional stages that you could say Jesse Livermore originally talked about. We called in the book specifically that we were in a phase 3 going into a phase 4 for the traditional markets. So that's been very interesting, yet at the same time that we were in a phase 7 all the way down to potentially 1,000 in Bitcoin. So you see this interesting decoupling. And at the same time, as per what both you, Tone, and Choto are saying, is that I completely agree. You're looking at a completely different revolutionary asset class. Now, Tyler did not believe that. He believed that manipulated assets throughout history, looking at precious metals and smaller precious metals like rhodium, have always been thinly traded and manipulated, and they always follow the same rules. Debatably, in March, during both crashes, we could say that maybe it would have wicked down had not BitMEX and other exchanges had certain issues. However, that aside, I do agree with both of you guys that I think we are looking at a very different animal based on very different principles. Because again, I think that the manipulation comes from different situations that, again, due to regulations in the traditional markets and the lack of regulations that we have in Bitcoin, I think provide for also a bit of a Wild West frontier that sometimes I think it could diverge a bit on what we would very normally expect from other hyperwave patterns, which I think, as per having all of us on the call, makes it amazing technology and dangerous for the rest of the world and all of us trying to hodl, trying to know how to trade it as well. It's definitely its own forms of challenges and manipulations for trading or holding as an investment, understanding its value as a store of value.
Okay. Maybe my other question that maybe I'll love us to look at, what is the difference between talking about a bubble and then about the hyperwave? Are they one and the same thing? The bubble and the...
So the difference between a bubble and hyperwave, yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, in my opinion, I think one of the things that made me join the Bitcoin movement that eventually has become a full industry was this sense of, it's almost like a religion when you think about it. And yes, it's good to have theories around it. But the interesting thing is there is a point at which also Bitcoin accidentally had over 180 billion Bitcoins injected. And you know what the community did? They just went back, fixed it, and just continued. So they have a set of faith and religious connotations around what it should be, 21 million Bitcoins and the like. And one of the things that made me also choose to actually risk some money in it was that reality that when you join, you kind of feel like the community will always do what it takes to keep it alive. So yes, suddenly there was 180 billion Bitcoin. They went, oops, sorry, if you got any of those Bitcoins, we just have to plug the hole and we have to keep going again. And so the second part was that it's software, and being a tech guy also meant that I believe that people always modify it, will always update it, and it's going to keep up with time. I mean, there's been a lot of backlash along the way, but the reality is it's still with us. It's probably the hardest form of money that has ever existed. And so let's see how it goes. So there's theories around it. One of the things that I like is there's this guy called Bob Lucas that has something called the 4-year journey. And one of the things that he has, he says every 4 year, it will actually bubble up to a certain level and then it will start correcting. So there's a bit of similarity between that and the hyperwave theory. What I think is that this is a technology that humanity needs. If they didn't need it, it doesn't matter what theory exists, it wouldn't have done anything.
Tony?
Sure, but I believe, and I agree with that. It's and I know Bob Lucas, great guy. And what the question was, the difference between a bubble and a hyperwave, correct?
Yeah. Is there a difference or
so
the same? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like Leah said in the beginning, all hyperwaves are bubbles, but not all bubbles are hyperwaves. So in order for a bubble to be a hyperwave, it has to fit these mathematical rules. And the starting rule is your asset has to be consolidating at a low price for years before it can begin the hyperwave phase. Like we've seen this with, especially in the crypto space, where an asset shows up and it immediately starts rising exponentially. So that cannot be a hyperwave. So it just goes through its progression. It has to spend years accumulating, and then it has to start rising at a reasonable angle, not too steep. And that usually happens for approximately a year's worth of time. And then it starts to go up at a slightly steeper angle, and that can last usually a little bit shorter, but it doesn't have to. But then you get this phase 4, which is this unreasonably quick exponential rise, and that lasts a short amount of time. Though Tyler never actually put time rules into the equation. It just has to be, it just goes to the operation. The time of phase 4, the exponential blow off top, has to be significantly shorter than all the other phases based on time. And then it has a very short, very quick drop, then a very short, very quick rise that cannot make a new all-time high. And then phase 7 can last technically forever, and it gets canceled if we get back to near the all-time high years to complete a hyperwave, and very, very short.
Awesome, awesome. We'll explain.
Yeah.
Leah, or
Just to add in, I was looking at the chart between hyperwave and a bubble, and yes, it does have to start, very low. With the hyperwave, we talk about phase 1, 2, up to 7. With the bubble, that's where you can really see it ties more to people's emotions, where there's the stealth phase, the takeoff phase, then there's the first sell-off. People sell off a bit, then it moves on to media attention, enthusiasm, then it moves on to straight greed, where everyone's just buying and not really looking at learning even about the technology. They're just buying. It's just straight greed. And that's when they start to go back to phase when you compare to the hyperwave. That's phase 6. There's a sell-off, a bull trap, then it goes back to fear. It talks about emotion again. So that's really, a bubble really is about, just people okay, we can call it, going on with the wave, going on with what they are listening to their peers and so forth. So that's really what happens in a bubble, which is a bit different with with the hyperwave, because the hyperwave now it's more mathematics. Now talking about the asset itself and the history and what comparing to other, assets that have taken the exact same path, right from phase 1 to phase 7.
That's really interesting. If I could jump in for a second,
Yeah.
and reminds me completely is that the other cryptocurrencies you could say couldn't be classified as hyperwaves at all because of their lack of historical time to be able to actually identify that phase 1. The way that I'm thinking about it, given what you're saying, is that not just because Bitcoin has that time in order to form the chart pattern and actually qualify as a hyperwave to begin with, is that it has enough fundamentals that we understand and pillars that you can actually understand what this asset is. I think the rest of the alternative currencies and cryptocurrencies, for the most part, weren't able to establish that sort of, not only just because of the rational exuberance that ended up happening, but also just generally that they don't have the same fundamentals that we do have in Bitcoin that we can identify, that we can understand, and we could pinpoint a value to.
Okay. Maybe to make the conversation even more interesting and a little bit more controversial, is it possible for Bitcoin to reach $10 million using the hyperwave theory? Just to make the conversation a bit more interesting, let's talk prices. Is it possible for Bitcoin to reach
Oh, is it to me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lee. I'll go after you.
Yeah.
I do believe so. I think that I actually absolutely believe so. I'll leave it at that and throw it back to Tone.
I think it's possible. It may take a little while, but at the same time, it's not. The hyperwave just gives you a look at what's happening. Like if Bitcoin is going to $10 million, it's not because of hyperwave. It's because Bitcoin is basically dominating global money and global finance. That's going to be the reason that does it. All that hyperwave will say is if Bitcoin starts to enter another hyperwave, because it clearly had one in 2017, 2016, 2017, if Bitcoin is to enter another hyperwave, you know where the baseline is. Phase 1 is going to be $20,000 line. So from there, that's going to take Bitcoin pretty far. The last hyperwave took Bitcoin from 1,000 to 20,000, so that's a 20x difference. And if our new baseline is at 20,000, if it's a hyperwave of a similar magnitude, then it's 20 times 20, which takes Bitcoin to a $400,000 price, basically. And that's not that close to 10 million, but it's getting us there. Now Bitcoin could have topped way higher. Bitcoin could have topped a little bit lower. So I think that there's going to be another hyperwave in Bitcoin that ends significantly lower than 10 million, probably closer to 1 million or 500,000. But there's nothing stopping Bitcoin from having one after that. So yes, and also Bitcoin can reach those highs without following the rules of a hyperwave, because not every asset rises in hyperwave fashion.
Okay, Tongai, thank you so much, Ton.
Yeah, I think it will rise. It will take a long time because remember when we were talking about the hyperwave, that the phase 1 is really kind of stagnant. It's gradual growth. So when you look at the hyperwave over time, say over 20 years, that's when you start to see that the graph starts to actually get smaller, and you see that it's a steady growth. And I do like what Ton just mentioned around, the last time that it was from 1,000 to around 20,000. I had someone who mentioned something interesting, saying, if you just try to have one Bitcoin in your lifetime, just try to have one, there are only 21 million are going to be made, and the values will keep growing up. So you will become one of 21 million in the entire world to own a Bitcoin, and the price will keep going up. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I think Bitcoin is going to keep going up. It's going to take time though to reach amounts like 10 million. But I think in our lifetime, we'll probably reach maybe 2.5 million. Yeah, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. Nihar?
Well, that definitely depends on what happens with the US dollar as well. But the natural growth is that it's definitely going to continue growing. Those cycles are beneficial to having people become involved in this space. I personally thought that the market had changed in 2017, 2018, only for the correction to tell me, dude, you're wrong. So my opinion is that this is going to happen again because, regardless of hyperwave theory or whatever other theory, I think human nature is the same. We all get in when things get hot, and then we forget to get out fast enough. So I suspect that, yeah, the calculation with hyperwave will probably be validated again, but as well, the centuries-old human greed, fear, and euphoria are just going to play up all over again. And the question is, will it happen in the next year or the next 2 years, or the next 3 years? It's just no one knows the specific time. But the industry and the amount of mindshare that the industry has garnered is such that a lot of things will continue to be built, a lot of people and services will continue to be added. And what that means is can only grow. I mean, look at the recent DeFi high. It's just insane. So, it could be the start of another wave, I would say.
Can I add to
that? Yes, please, go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. Also, just adding to, rather than me just saying, yes, I agree with my own irrational exuberance, I'll try to explain. So as per hyperwave theory, and I think what everybody else is saying here, phase 7 is not invalidated yet. Now, I don't think that we're going to be going down to 1,000. However, it isn't invalidated until we reach a new all-time high. So that is interesting. And also for what you were saying on phase 1, yes, it takes a long time to establish. And actually, if we then break through phase 1 while we're going down phase 7, I don't know, I'm using this, it actually needs to stay there as well for a bit, not just wick. So, and then that would say the hyperwave is done. Now, what's also interesting is the amount of assets that have created a funky hyperwave is what it's called. And that's where right now, which I would see as more probable, is that we could enter another hyperwave without hitting phase 1 and see, well, if we want to just use normal terms, and see another bubble, see another blow off top, see something, but we could be seeing another hyperwave. And it would not surprise me. I do think that I am bullish, and I do think that we will see over time a large price appreciation, but it would not surprise me given how much emotions generally in the markets, but especially in Bitcoin and our enthusiasm and this new asset class, that we see another bubble during our trajectory of rising.
Awesome. This has been a very interesting discussion. I do believe that at the end of the day, we all agree that human nature will always play a role on how the market, on where the market goes and everything. Even if it's good theories or not theories, at the end of the day, our nature tends to control, where the whole thing goes. We have come to the end of our discussion, but before we go, I would love to have like your final thoughts, on whatever that they've been discussing. For the last word of you want to get into the conversation before we say goodbye to every one of us. Just a minute each, just to your last thoughts.
Well, yeah. So my final thoughts, what I would say to, people is, just read a lot, research, before you get into any of these assets, including Bitcoin. Just try to, know more information about if you're about to buy, if you're about to make an investment. know what's going on, read the news, read even Bitcoin white paper on its own so that you understand what you're going through. You know, when people are investing in real estate, in cars, they investigate, but for some reason in Bitcoin, people don't. I guess because it's technical, but I do advise everyone to, you know, listen to conferences like this, podcast, and just make sure you understand what's going on before you make investments.
Thank you so much.
I think I'll jump in here and let Lee and Tony close. So on my part, like any good pastor, I'll say, please join the faith. We need you guys to change the world and basically make it so that people don't lose their wealth and people can always have access to their wealth in any jurisdiction, anywhere in the world. To me, that's why I believe in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. And the ease of that happening means that you cannot go from being wealthy as a family to being poor overnight just because someone decided to change the rules in your country. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I'll jump in next. We'll let Leah close out. I just want to let people know that before you invest in any asset, you really need to understand why you are investing in that asset. Anyone that's investing in Bitcoin and especially other cryptocurrencies, if your sole purpose for doing so is to get rich, you're going to be very disappointed, because while a lot of people have gotten rich from these assets, those people were able to enter and exit at a very good time. Sometimes it's skill, most of the time it's just luck. And that's why you only hear from those people that made a lot of money. You never really hear from the people that lost a lot of money because they just don't have a platform to talk to you about their struggles getting through it. And if you are going to get in, you have to understand why, and you got to have a longer time horizon, and you can't get too disappointed, which is also why I only recommend Bitcoin and I don't recommend anything else in the crypto space because it's just not sound. It's okay to trade it, but I don't find them good as investment tools. And sure, a lot of us talk about the trading aspect of it, but most people aren't going to do that. So please do your due diligence. Please do a bunch of reading. Please do real research, not just listening to people on Twitter. And don't be scared of new technology and the latest innovations, which is Bitcoin.
Thank you, Tom.
I love that. I guess the one thing that I was thinking about the most is just that I think it's important to, following up on Tone, do your research on the people you respect in the space. I think it's easy to just find on Twitter, on news media, any media, you know, celebrity names or anything. But I think generally in life and business, and definitely in this very crowded space, it's very important to make sure that you find advisors, mentors, people you respect, and be able to learn from them, not just all the different noise, all the different things, because I think it can steer you wrong. And on that point, though, I think the Bitcoin community is beautiful, strong, and very supportive. And if there's anything, I've felt extraordinarily supported during this entire journey of trying to learn myself and fumbling and stubbing my toes and everything. So I think that for anyone wanting to get in, which I think that they should, but I think that they should do it cautiously, carefully, meticulously, that they're following people who are giving good advice. And there's definitely a lot of those people in the space, including my brilliant panelists and the moderator.
Thank you so much, guys. You've been a wonderful people. You've been a wonderful panel, and we hope we meet when there's no COVID.
Sure,
believe
sure.
next year
Thank
we'll have a better we'll have a better conference. Thank you very much, and very
Thanks,
wonderful.
guys. Good to meet all of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.